minute.
Hey,
like a backwards dumb disco.
Why
thing
am I
first,
talking in the
then I fixed
background?
that first, and then we.
All right, that's all done.
Live streaming started again. If you want, no. Welcome
Here
to
you
the
go.
show of Static, where everything that can go wrong will go wrong, but you're not going to die tonight. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that wonderful intro. With
Well, you can hear the song. You just heard me talking on top of it. That's all.
Ventriloquist voice.
Yes.
Don't worry.
I could explain what happened, but it really would. It wouldn't be. It would be.
Why
Fun.
don't we explain who our guest is tonight?
That's a much better idea.
Right.
Kilo, you do the introduction.
This is someone I know from Icon Collective, and his name is Alex. And he is well, why don't I let him explain? Alex,
So,
why don't
Alex
you-
Flores.
Yeah, what you do.
Hello, everybody. Well, first of all, is that the theme music? Is that what you guys play?
Yeah, that was actually one of the first things that Kilo and I wrote together. That we did that. Like that was kind of one of the things that got us started. We did that, and we're like, hey, that's pretty cool. We should do more.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm Alex Flores. So I met Kilo here working at Icon Collective. College of Music is what it's known as now. When I met Kilo, I was just on ops though. It was just kind of like the support system. Kind of help the students when they're in the studio. Things have since changed, but in addition to that, I'm just kind of an engineer. So, well-rounded in music production, but an emphasis on audio engineering. So I've always been working in the studio, behind the boards and operating Pro Tools and things of that nature. So that's where I'm coming from.
Well,
Yeah.
now you just said Pro Tools, and everybody that I've ever spoken with from Icon talks about Ableton. I use Pro Tools, so I'm very interested that you said Pro Tools there.
Yeah, so when I actually met Kilo, it wasn't Pro Tools at that time. It was just Ableton, and then they had Logic. Now, all of the creativity they focus on is in Ableton. They used to use Logic as like a tracking DAW, and now they've since moved over to Pro Tools, right? And we've also kind of, I would say, beefed up the like studio techniques, and we replaced like a smaller like boutique console, and like we switched it out for 2 SSLs. So we beefed up the studio
Nice.
techniques. And in those rooms, because it's the console, we have Pro Tools, like kind of an industry standard, because that's what they're going to see first and foremost, at least when they're tracking. The creativity portion is still for a large part in these studios, like on their own laptop, so they could use whatever DAW they like, but I always the students to try not to subscribe to the DAW war. They're just all kind of their own tools. Everything's good for what it does.
Yep. Yeah. Well, exactly. I've excuse me, I'm losing my voice. No, that's why I was interested when you said that, because I mess around with tons of them because I've been around for 1,000 years. So and Pro Tools is kind of I use Pro Tools here in my studio here. And I always end up going back to Pro Tools. I'll screw around. I'll use I use Reason, Fruity Loops, and I use some open source stuff. I've used Logic. I've used all of them, and I always end up going back to Pro Tools because it's what I know, and it's because, as you said, like every professional studio I've ever worked in, that's what was there. So, and when I work on stuff at home and bring it to a studio, it's a hell of a lot easier if I've got Pro Tools sessions. You know what I mean? I can just bring them in.
Well, I always tell people, like, you don't need to be, the best at every DAW, but if you want to be a successful music professional, you at least need to know how to get in and out of these DAWs professionally, right? When, I used to work at, a studio by the name of Westlake Recording Studios. I was fortunate enough to see stuff there. And you would have people like Timberland there, right? But he would have like a guest producer. And this guest producer, if it's hip hop, they would start an FL Studio. They like to send their drums through the gross beat. Then they have that drum bus compressor that has a soft clipper, so it makes their drums really, really loud, right? And they get that out and they give it over to Timberland, and he's in Ableton. Then, they start producing, and then they stop. It's kind of a skeleton. and then they get that out and put it in Pro Tools, and then they have the vocalist.
Yeah, I was
you
gonna
know,
say, I was like, you were saying Timbaland. I was like, Timbaland's definitely gonna end up at Pro Tools at some point, you know. I mean,
Yeah, but I mean,
you know.
but so with that saying, like, there's also another portion that people forget, and it's, you know, it's called post vocal production, because after they get that kind of skeleton production in Pro Tools, well, then they cut the vocals, they comp them, tune them, align them, consolidate them, export them, then get them back into Ableton, and then perform the post vocal production. Now you could have like the melody weaving out of the vocals and things of that nature, but you're not going to know how the shadows are supposed to overlay until you have the centerpiece, right? And the shadows are the reverbs and the delays, and the centerpiece is going to be the vocal. So
That's a cool
yeah,
analogy.
you got to be able to get in and out. Like, you know, like when I tell everybody a goal, one of the goals, you know, is to get like a nice shiny plaque in your studio. You know, let's say you get it and you look around the studio and you find a nail, but you find a screwdriver. You could turn it around and hit it and hit it and hit it. You know, it might work, but just not very efficiently. You know, so like Pro Tools is really good at audio, and you know, Ableton is really good at just kind of creating everything. You know, Logic's good at MIDI. You know, everything has its own thing. You just got to be really, you just got to use it for what it is.
That's cool. Well, you know, Kilo, we kind of, you know, you and I, our process sort of is that without, just by accident, right? Because I track everything here in Pro Tools. Like I do all the tracking, and then I give it to Kilo. Kilo does all the mixing and then and more, and adding, you know, creating sounds and everything within Ableton. Pretty cool.
Right. But you do a good job of the mixing portion of your vocal for me, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't have to de-ess everything and stuff like that. And you don't sing out of key. So I don't have to.
I try not to.
Like when people are like, throw like auto-tune on it, like at Icon, I'm like, but why? Like what?
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
I'm not used to having to do that with you or other people, but like they just, that, I guess that's like a new thing, like that people are just used to doing. I know the bigger, like big artists use a teeny bit here and there, but like I'm not used to someone just saying, no, you can fix it. I'm like, no, you can sing a little better than that. I don't know.
I mean, I get it. Oh, go ahead, man.
I think that goes to with like, you know, just producing or mixing or mastering with intent. You know what I mean? I'm guilty of it as well. Like when I get a mix and I grab a compressor and I start compressing, I'm like, wait a minute, why am I compressing? I'm just used to doing it. Like, let me step back. Like,
does this need a compressor?
Things with intent, you know what I mean? Just because I seen it done.
Right. And I really start with every track is a new track with nothing on it. So that then like I just put what it needs. If it doesn't need anything, which every once in a while that'll happen, I like how the bass is, you know, kind of bleeding over or something for the vibe. Like I won't have to use an EQ just because I want to. And I think that is something I had to learn, because with Bob's stuff at first, I was EQing the fuck out of shit and stuff that I didn't necessarily need to do. And it was degrading the sound, you know. And so I think that is true. Producing with intent is, when you're being an engineer especially, is very, very like important, because I had a certain argument with a certain someone at Icon one time, which I'm not going to mention who it was, but because he told my class, who weren't as advanced as me, that he put the limiter on every track. And I was just like, I'm me and two of my classmates said, like, bro, like, I know why we knew why he was doing it, because he wasn't going to use every single one of them. But if he says that in front of people that don't know to turn them off, like, yeah, don't tell people to do something every time with everything. I was just like, anyways, yeah, don't do that. But anyway,
you have to get them context. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for, like, you know, because if you're trying to explain somebody or trying to help them get somewhere, then you could give them your roadmap, you know, but then they'll be following that roadmap for a very long time until they find their more efficient way to do it. Whereas you say, look, this is the end result. So then they might follow your roadmap, but then somewhere along the ways, because they know the destination, they find kind of a more efficient way for themselves, you know?
Yeah.
Well, not every song is the same. So every song is going to have a little bit different. I was telling someone in the studio today, like, the same thing we're talking about, because I was like, what if certain parts like of one song, the melody notes and the like low end notes are like going into each other or something like I don't remember what it was, but it's like you don't need to like do the same EQs on everything
Right.
because they're not going to overlap at the same spot
You
in
just gotta use
every
your ears,
single
man.
song you write. And some people think I need to cut it here in every song, and it's like you don't. You
Right.
don't need to. But before we get ahead of ourselves of this excitement, I want to know how Alex got into music. I've been waiting to ask this question all day. Like what got you? I know you're like, oh shit, I'm on the spot. But no,
Not on the spot. Okay, so I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, San Jose to be exact. So there's a lot of like funk influence just from the Bay Area, Sly and the Family Stone. And so I grew up really with rap. And so rap is really influenced by that funk, at least in the Bay Area. So I got started really as kind of, I guess, the I don't know, like the business side. I had a bunch of friends that either rapped and sang and produced and engineered. And so I kind of just got them all together and would like put, projects together, rap projects. But it got to a point where I was always waiting on an engineer. Like there just was not an abundance of engineers. That's not really the flashy part. Everybody wants to either be the artist or the producer.
Right.
So I just got really tired of it. And so, my best friend, he was the engineer. And so he was looking to go get it official and go to a school. So he started looking, and his father actually used to give us a lot of great advice. And so he was like, well, figure out what jobs you like, go ahead and call them up and ask them like, what do you look for in a student, or where do you take students from?
That's
so
smart.
we took that. We started calling the studios, and we started hearing about a place called SAE Institute. It's an audio engineering school. They didn't have any on the West Coast at the time. So we had gone over to Miami and visited the school. But I mean, who is this podcast to? Like,
Well, right now the whole world, right? I mean, it's live streaming, so anybody potentially could be watching.
Yeah, be as honest as you
all
can.
right. So I was well, it was weed at the time. So it was weed. I was selling weed, and I was trying to do one last, mission, I would say, so I could pay for the school.
Right.
And I ended up getting into trouble, and I ended up actually losing a year of my life over marijuana, which is a whole nother story. That could
which is now, I mean, then that's insane now. To think about it now, because I mean, it's not even
like,
illegal.
over weed. It's like, come on.
Right? Yeah, really.
That's what's crazy to me now. Is like now I could just literally walk into a store and just buy it. Like
you buy weed and
I literally lost a year of my life over that. You know what I mean? Anyway, so that's what happened. And then by the time I got out and I saved up again, they had opened up a Hollywood campus. And I was like, wow, that's closer. So then I started saving up, working really hard, and I came to the Hollywood campus. So that was about 2007. That was very, very hard for me, because in 2007, if you remember, the turn of the year was when the economy kind of crashed.
Right.
You remember that?
Yeah. 2008 was a bad year.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened, but they failed to like submit my loan. And so with that program, you would get the laptop, the books and everything. So I got everything. I was already going for like 2 or 3 months, and they called me into the office and they're like, we forgot to submit your loan. Can you reapply? And it was 2008. So obviously I didn't get it.
Yeah, that was the whole deal in 2008, was that the banks were basically over lending. So when everything fell apart, and the government had to bail out the big banks, then nobody was lending, basically, because they did, because they were barely staying alive, the banks.
Exactly. So I got denied. I had to empty up my bank account and sell my car. And it just made it tough, but I wouldn't change it. Basically, I lived in Koreatown and I worked in Westwood. So it was like an 1.5-hour bus ride. And then I would work for 9 hours, and then it was a 2-hour bus ride to Hollywood. And then I would stay as late as I could until they kicked me out, and still managed to get the most hours in my class. My best friend beat me out of valedictorian, which is okay. It's the best friend. And then when I graduated, I was freelancing for like 2-3 months. And then the school that I graduated from, they called me up and offered me a job Within 3 months, I was kind of running the studios and then eventually writing curriculum and grading and all of this such. And I did that for about 4 years. And then a whole new regime came in. You know, it's not like Icon. That's why I love Icon, is they just started not really caring about the students and just about the money. And I didn't really like that. So I left. You know, I didn't even really have a job. And word got out that I was available. And then the campus director at Icon at the time called me up and gave me a job, him and Bernie, right? Bernie kind of walked me around and I got the job. Now, at the same time, a buddy of mine, they were opening up a school over at Westlake Recording Studios. So if you don't know Westlake Recording Studios, it's home of, made famous by Quincy and Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
They did Off the Wall at one of the locations and Thriller, and then, you know, the other.
If anyone's paying attention, the biggest records of all time. I mean, really the biggest hits anyone's ever made. They ever made there.
Yeah, so I was there, and so I was doing both. So I couldn't decide. They were both two great jobs, and you know, I learned a lot at both. So I would go work at Westlake for 8 hours, and then I would get off and then go to Icon and work for 8 hours. So I did like 15-hour days, 6 days a week, and I did that for 4 years before the pandemic hit. Wow. But it was really awesome because I would take what I learned over at Westlake, you know, all of these contemporary techniques, you know, things that are used on records, and you know, it'd be on the radio the next day, and then I would go over to like Icon and you know, share this stuff with the students.
Right.
You know,
this is how Quincy's mixing his new album. That's awesome.
Not necessarily Quincy, but you know, there was a whole slew of other people. You know, there were times that, you know, I did get to see Quincy, but you know, he's kind of in his twilight years and kind of just relaxing at this point.
Man, but you know, that's one of the coolest human beings walking the planet right now. You know what I mean? To get to meet Quincy Jones would be that'd be the top of my list. That's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I missed anything. So basically just rap got me into this. But you know, it's funny, when I started getting into this, somebody once told me that once you get into a position to make the music you want to make, you're no longer going to want to make that music.
That's so fucking true.
Right?
Yeah.
It grows, the access to equipment, studios, everything, you know, it grows. So you change. It's kind of like when you're a kid, you don't like broccoli, and you know, you grow up and you know, all of a sudden you like broccoli.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very smart thing to point out to the people that are watching who are maybe new to music. Don't get like stuck in, I make this music, because I came into Icon Collective, the school he's sitting in right now, making like house or big room, like that kind of music. I don't even listen to that kind of music anymore. I don't really listen to EDM anymore. Like I made like, go ahead, Alex.
What about remember Jesse? Jesse started with what was
that's a great story.
Drum and bass, and he left making piano ballads, like beautiful piano.
Absolutely. And it works like that because, like, I mean, I made like hip hop stuff with the homies back in Tulsa, and then I made like big room house type of stuff. And then I end up making like, I mean, mixing and mastering for like rock, but then making like weird, I don't know what you would call it, like hard style, really fast shit that I didn't even like back then. I didn't like this kind of music, but now I like making it. And it's like, I think another reason why people do what Alex is saying is once you learn how to do it, it almost loses its magic. You know, like the magic of doing that goes away because you have all the tools at your disposal and stuff. And some music I make, I still make, but some of it I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I've heard this for years and I've made this for years. So now I want to make something else. What do you think about though? Do you make the same stuff that you used to make?
I don't. I mean, I'm like schizophrenic musically. I mean, I've made everything. So you know what I mean. But you know, why did I start? Would be like, I mean, you know, I mean, I wanted to be Bob Dylan when I was 16. You know what I mean? And to some degree, I mean, I still do that. I still write, sing. You know, I play my guitar and sing my songs. You know, but no, I mean, it's more to 1,000 times since then. I was in a ska jam band all through the 90s. I make weird trip hop music. I make, you know, alternative rock and pop and weird, crazy ass music that I do with Kilo now. You know what I mean? Like I've just done everything. So I don't know. I guess my original goal was to be like a singer-songwriter, which I definitely am and have been for a long time, but I've done a lot of other things.
I think Miles Davis is the greatest example, right? He just pushed
Miles.
himself and never ever did the same thing ever.
Yeah, Miles,
he didn't even like playing a lot of the stuff that he had in the back.
No.
I mean, he would just push himself forward and just would not stop continuing to grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the world grew with Miles. You know what I mean? I mean, think about I mean, you're saying some of the greatest names in music. You know what I mean? Miles invented like 3 different kinds of jazz. I mean, no joke. I mean, he invented because he did. Well, he did obviously. He didn't invent bebop, but man, he perfected it. You know. And of course he had the whole birth of the cool thing where he invented that cool jazz movement where it was sort of somewhere between bebop and big band and everything, and did his thing. And then of course fusion. I mean, Bitches Brew was the birth of fusion jazz and is one of the most, you know, if anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, just Google Bitches Brew and listen for like an hour and you'll know. It's just it was future music when he did it in 1969 or 70 or whatever it was they did it. It's amazing. And every jazz that came after, all those bands, all the 80s like fusion bands, like Weather Report, Spyro Gyra, all those guys, they all were in Miles's band. You know what I mean? Like the biggest names ever played for Miles. Anyway, sorry. I just want to know a Miles tirade there, but you know, I love him.
Well, that's great. Like I feel like us as music professionals should strive not to be the jaded professionals. And you know, I don't like that. I don't like that. Who cares? Like pull what you like out of whatever it is. I don't like country, but I wholeheartedly respect it. You know what I mean? The storytelling, the mixes, you know, the way their audience support them still. Like, you know, you can pull something out of everything and make your production stronger. So let's like stay away from the jadedness, you know?
Exactly. And there's so much nuance in every style. Like, you know, I would say I don't really like country either, except Johnny Cash. You know what I mean? Like, how do you know, Johnny Cash is one of the cool, again, you know, you don't have to like a style of music, just like music. You know, there's one great quote I heard one time was, you know, there's only 2 kinds of music, good music and bad music. That's it. You know, so just dig in, man, you know?
True.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, like, I don't know how to say this. Music comes back around as well. Like generations now are doing like adding things to stuff that it's like, oh, people listened to it way long ago. So if you're like, I don't like that, like you might find something in that you do like that you don't like. But but the people who have made new genres based off of old genres, if they did that, those genres wouldn't exist because they heard something in that may have influenced them without them even knowing or with them knowing that they never would have heard. So for all you know, your favorite genre, whoever you are out there, based off of a genre you don't even think you like.
Like I don't know the answer to this, or I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm gonna take a wild guess that Lil Nas X was not a country fan before he got famous. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's what you're saying. I mean, you could take, and I just use that because it popped into my head but you could, that's a great example, right? You could say, as an exercise, as an artist and as an engineer, as a producer, whatever you want, whatever your gig is, try to remix something that you hate, you know, or write a style of music you don't like and see what happens.
Also techniques too, right? I listen to a lot of hip hop, and there's actually it's not up and coming at this point, a big producer named Hit Boy. But when I listen to the low end on like portable devices, like he's got to be stealing something or taking some techniques or borrowing some techniques from like bass music or EDM or something, because that low end is like, wow, like it doesn't sound like other hip hop, you know? And so he's just taking techniques from, you know, things that he likes, you know, or like, because I come from the R&B, you know, pop background. When I open up these credits, you know, everybody knows Skrillex in these walls for his sound design and EDM, but when I open up those credits in pop and R&B, lo and behold, Skrillex is all in there. You know, he doesn't just do that one thing. He's everywhere.
That's it, man. And you know what? It's fun. It's fun to do a lot of different kind of music. I mean, it's just fun. Do it. Have fun. You know?
I don't listen to a lot of rock. I don't, but I do a lot of rock with you, Bob.
Right,
like,
sure. Yeah.
I like it, but I don't listen to it on like my own. I don't go, I'm gonna put on some rock music right now. I just don't. I mean,
I hardly ever do either, honestly. I mean,
well,
really,
that's
I,
pretty cool. Yeah,
what's that?
that's pretty cool. I said.
Yeah, I mostly listen to jazz and like down tempo electronic stuff, trip hop and like maybe kind of like lo-fi ambient stuff like that. But
Right.
yeah, but I still make rock because I've spent, 40 years listening to it. So, so it's in my head. It's all, I pick up a guitar, like,
Right.
rock out.
And if I remember correctly, Alec, that Icon now you teach a class that makes people mesh genres together, right?
No, I don't teach that class. Hopefully soon,
Oh.
but we're talking about a new class that they've kind of started implementing because you're aware, but maybe the audience or whoever tunes in isn't aware. Icon has kind of I would say a flagship class. It's called a collab project. You know what I mean? They pair you with some other students and you're responsible for an EP. I don't know. I think it's 5 songs, or I don't know how many of the songs are extant. But they've since added in the level prior to that. So level 4 is where you do the collab project. Level 3, they've added collab sessions. So in collab sessions, you just rotate each week with like a different student in your class, and your instructor or the executive producer just tasks you with like whatever the prompt is, crossing genres or, whatever, they could be like Skrillex meets Slipknot Go, whatever it is. And so they're producing genres that maybe they've never, experienced, really like even active listen or, been introduced or exposed to, so that's really cool. And the feedback from it has been really, 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 really great. Like Kilo was saying, he doesn't listen to a whole lot of rock, even these students, maybe there's genre they don't listen to, but if we have them produce it or just kind of get their brain around it, it just gives them more tools. So then when they go out, they can just work with a lot more producers, and I don't know what the genres are, but I hear a lot of great stuff from it. I think it's a really great class.
That's
And
awesome, man.
I mean, think about if I was closed-minded and was like, oh, I can't do rock, how dare I? Like, I wouldn't even have a podcast or a label, like, because I never would have approached him saying, like, he showed me what happened was he showed me one of his songs,
That's right.
like on SoundCloud, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's sick, bro. Like, can I master that for you? Because I knew I could at least make it louder, right? And like bring some of the stuff out. But then it came this whole different world of like, wow, I actually don't really 100% know how to do this, because it's like rock elements and all this different things. But then I took the time, and I have luckily blessed with a good ear. So I would listen to other, mixes of songs and like figure out what they're doing because of the ear training class. So I could go, okay, they're panning guitars this way, drums doing this and stuff. And so I think it's great that people are learning stuff like that, because like it is really good to step out of your genre sometimes. I don't even listen. I'm the same as Bob. I don't listen to EDM. I listen to it every once in a while.
That's
When
funny. I do. I listen to you.
and I don't. But we called what I make now hard style for what, like 6 months? And it's not, it's more like Gab or whatever the fuck that is. But I do it well, but I didn't even really listen to it. I just kind of do it my way, and that's that. Like, so, I mean, that's what's funny is like, I make a music that I thought was one music that I don't even listen to, but I make it, that's what comes out of me. And yet then I do most of my time mixing, mastering rock stuff. And I started producing hip hop beats and like big room house. Great. Like that's what we're saying here, everybody that's watching, like, don't get stuck on having to be Skrillex. Like the Skrillex that is not the full thing. It's not the full package. There's like him producing other people's shit and like working on other people's stuff. And like Alex was talking about, like, you just see the one side, which is the like dubstep stuff, which is dope. I love him. But like, that's not all there is to him as a musician, as an artist.
When he hears, you're right. I was just I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I thought you were just finished when you said artist. Well, go ahead. Keep talking.
I'm gonna say what? No, I forgot.
Okay, I'm sorry. Very sorry. I was just gonna say that you were talking about when Kid was telling the story about my song that he remixed and everything, that was like really like that. Like I said, one day I was like, oh, I'm a musician too. Here's some of my stuff. And he listened to it this was like a song that was just like on my SoundCloud. My SoundCloud page is mostly just like ideas and shit that I just throw up there. Sometimes they're private, sometimes they're public, but they're usually not songs I intend on releasing. They're just kind of there. I mean, I put the ones I have released up there too, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of junk on there. And we were listening to one of them, and Keela's like, this one's badass. We should do this. And I was like, okay, whatever. I think it was like a year old. And I was like, all right, here are the tracks, go for it. And he ended up mixing it and mastering it, and it sounded amazing. And I got a record deal from it. Now it's I have a small record deal with a German label, but it was that song. Right. And we always tell that story, Keelo, but we never played the song. I'm gonna play like 30 seconds of the song here, just so you can like use it. So can you guys see my screen there?
Yeah.
All right. So that's the 1986 is the song. So this is like you. Played it because you said you like funk song. All right, well, there you go. That's the idea.
So the original version of it, so mine doesn't sound so bad, because now my ear has done that long enough that now I'm hearing things I want to fix.
I love the sound of that song. It's very
great. I'm glad you do. You are the artist, so I'm glad you love it.
Well, because it's a great because it's a great funk. It's got a great funk groove to it, and you brought it out, I think. So,
which I didn't even think funk when I was making it. Like,
that's 100% what that is, though.
I know, sure, okay, I used the wrong stuff as an example. Whatever. I just heard a legend. Okay, listen.
Anyway,
but you should show the.
Oh, you want to hear the original one? Okay.
Yeah. Just so that.
All right, here I'll share my screen again. Here, hold. How do I do this 10 times every show and still not know how to do it? I'm an idiot.
I think you're joking. I think you're trolling us every time.
What screen can you? It's not there. See, really? Because I just showed the wrong screen, so I clearly don't know what I'm doing.
Maybe it's
All right, hold on. I got it. Where is it? There it is. All right. Do you see my SoundCloud now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Where's 1986? Oh, but that's it. So that's the one. But we
Right.
want the original.
Really fun.
Where is it?
I don't even remember what it sounds like, to be all the way honest.
Can you search your own SoundCloud? How's that work?
I don't think so, man. Never mind. This is a bad idea.
Oh, well, it's just there's been like literally hundreds of songs since then. And if I can't
right.
search, I'm not gonna be able to find it. All right, never mind. That was pointless.
Hi,
Anyway,
everybody. That was a good idea and a bad idea.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. And what's interesting also about like going to Icon and doing what I did, and is that I came into it doing what I did and wanted to be an artist, but now I enjoy being the engineer more than I enjoy writing my own shit. Like, I look forward to working on stuff with other people, for other people, and then I look forward to when I'm done writing my own song to then finish it up, because I mix while I write. That's another thing that we haven't pointed out, that when you do it yourself, you should be mixing while you're writing, not like at the end trying to polish a turd into submission. It's like, I see these kids putting 1,000 EQs on something, and I'm like, maybe you shouldn't have written that like that or use that sound.
Well,
Like,
you know, one thing when we were talking about that before, Keelo, and I think Alex, you were talking about it too. This idea that, like, say, for instance, you got a vocal track, and you know, there's singers out of key or whatever, and you know, the instinct of the student is to put auto-tune on it to fix it. And I would think if you're the engineer, right, in this scenario, just the engineer, not the producer, you're the engineer, then that's a logical thing to do, because those are the tools you have available to you. But a producer is a record producer. A producer goes to the artist and says, you did your vocal track wrong and you got to do it again. You know what I mean? You got to re-record this vocal track because you're out of key. That's what a producer does. You know what I mean? Like a record producer, a George Martin, you know, a guy that makes records, not just mixing. You know what I mean? So,
right. I think Alex was using the word producer as people use it at Icon, which is like, I'm a producer.
Oh, I know. No, I know. I wasn't arguing with
Right
that.
now?
I wasn't arguing with either one of you. I was just kind of saying that's that, you know, if you segregate your mind that way, when you're thinking about it and you're working on this stuff, you think like, okay, I put on my producer hat now. What
Uh-huh.
what would a producer do if this is messed up? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I have actually I have something when you said that, like shining the shit, polishing the turd,
Polishing the
kind of
turd, yeah.
things. So I actually came up with this a couple of weeks ago, but it's all like a snowball effect, or it builds upon each other, right? So your master is never going to be what you intend it to be unless your mix is what it should be,
Right.
right? And your mix is never going to be what you intend it to be unless your arrangement
tracks.
is what it should be. And
Right.
your arrangement's never going to be what it should be unless your music theory is where it should be, right? It all builds upon each other, right?
Right.
Oftentimes,
And also your tracks. The
Yeah,
the
exactly.
quality of your tracks too.
Oftentimes a student will sit down and, I ask them what they need help with, and, oh, mixing. But then when we play the track, and it tends to be like arrangement, they're not, they're not giving space, for everything. We only got a finite amount of time. Mixing, if we think about it, is actually fitting everything just into a box, right? We got 20 by 20, which is the range of human hearing. And then whatever the dynamic range is, those are different variables, but we literally have a finite amount of, a box, right? So we need to spend most of that space with the foundation. Everything else is just kind of the ear candy that lays in there. You know what I mean? But it's a finite amount of space.
Right.
Nice. Right.
Right. And another thing me and Alex had talked about the other day is, like, even if you get, for instance, there's this producer, right, that I met, and he had a phenomenal ear and mixed very well. So his shit should have been mastered really well, right? But then he sent his mix off to 2 different mastering engineers, spent a bunch of money, and both of them were trash balls. I would not have given them back to someone like that. I would have said, nope, I can't do it. Because what he did wrong was, and this is my point I'm bringing up, is he gave it to someone that wasn't used to doing the kind of music he did, right? And so the dude over compressed the shit out of the master. And even the dude who did like stem mastering or whatever did a terror, even worse than the other dude. And then I literally put it into my Ableton for like 1 minute. And because I know how to do that genre, I just like did it for 10 seconds while he was talking to his roommate, like in that same studio, sent it, like, was like, just listen to this. And he was like, oh my God, he was like super excited. And like, it sounded great. And I just bounced it down, gave it to him. And he's like, I can now put this out. And I'm like, dude, I'm thinking to myself, these poor people are spending money because you say you're a mastering engineer or whatever. And if you don't know the genre, you're not going to do it right. You're just not, and not everybody can do multi-genre like mastering and stuff, because you are taught one way or you learn one way, and a lot of people become fixed and that's how you do this. And the way I try to do my thing is like, because I do multiple genres, it's like you really have to listen to it and think, don't use a fucking master chain, you guys. Just don't. Like, build your master when you know what genre you're making, type of thing. Right, Alex? What do you think about that?
I mean, I agree. To be honest, I am a very inefficient mixing engineer. And that's because I want to keep it interesting for myself. Like, I don't have templates and chains. I approach everything like it's new. You know what I mean? So it's very inefficient. You know what I mean? Like snapping a chain on, I could save a whole lot of time, but that's not fun for me.
Right.
I want to approach it like it's its own thing. But back to the mastering thing, I think when we had that discussion, I always suggest you as the like mixing engineer or producer, artist, or if it's your project, to like master it and then send it off to the mastering engineer and say, either beat this or I'm not paying you.
That's so smart.
I actually did exactly that one time. Before I met Kilo, I had a kid that contacted me. I did everything myself before I worked with Kilo. And then some kid, emailed me and said, hey, I can master your tracks. Like, and I was like, all right. I was like, I'll pay you for it, the first one. I said, but we'll pick. I'll master it too, and we'll see which one, who does it better, And it was, in the end, the song wasn't all that good, so it didn't really matter. But it was a good exercise. You know what I mean? And I think it's a good point.
Yeah, but along the lines of what Kilo's saying is like I always tell everybody is they need to find, people that listen to music in the same way they do. You could have the best engineer in the
Right.
world, but if that you don't hear music in the same way, you'll
right.
never get the end results. Because if you think about it, we're kind of crazy. We're trying to communicate what we hear in our head, and we're trying to understand what they hear in their head. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to bridge that gap. We have a lot of what I call magic words that are like really subjective, between us, things like
Right.
really wild ones like silky or something. Like, what is silky? I don't understand what that means.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so funny that Alex says that because me and Bob have been working with a new producer and he does, well, now I know what he does, but like I met him at Icon. He's a new student at Icon actually. And like I realized yesterday when I was in the studio, oh, it's his mentee actually. It's funny that I'm pointing this out. So when me and Jake were working on his Ableton homework, the remix thing, and I said put that sippity sauce on it, like he understood what I meant. That's because we
Sippity
listen
sauce.
to music in the same way. Like, and that's when I realized like he used to do beats and stuff, like because we came from there, I could sit in a studio with him. So that points out also like the people you do music with should probably listen to it in the same way for the most part, because like he could immediately know what I was talking about. But if I said that to a random, a random other student, even a dubstep producer wouldn't know what the sippity sauce means,
Right.
like, so yeah, I mean, that is a really, really good point that I just really recently figured out. You have to kind of match yourself with people that just immediately kind of get your vibe. I think it's almost a vibe. Like
And
me and
yeah,
Bob
I was gonna say,
right.
right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's not even so much, genre, right? I mean, I liked what you said, Alex. You said you have to find people that listen to music the same way you do,
Right.
and that's the thing. It's like on the surface, this guy and I should have started working together. I'm 20 years older than he is, and I'm a hippie, and I play, weird hippie music, and he's a crazy, he was at the time, trap, hardcore producer.
Crazy. That's it.
Crazy. Well, that's the thing, with the thing that we had in common is we're both a little bit freaking nuts. And we do listen to music the same way. And we do have the same sort of like adventurous, experimental mindset where like, hey, what happens if I, play the guitar upside down? What if we,
True.
Yeah.
So
what if you reverse that and then shove it in the garbage? You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, like what if that's how we work? You know what I mean? Like he'll call me up and he'd be like, dude, I took your guitar track and I chopped it into like, tiny bits. And then I scrambled them all up. And then I made them into a drum beat. And it's like, what? And that's a song. That's how we do things, So, and it's fun. It's a lot of, but you have to agree on that because most guitar players, for instance, if you sent them a track and you said, I turned it into a kick drum, they'd be pissed. They'd be like, I want my guitar back. But I love it. I think it's freaking awesome when that stuff happens because it becomes something brand new and fun.
Yeah. No, it does. You are using a brand new example of when you sent me and Maddie that. So he sent me this nice song, this nice pretty song and he found a recording of Jimi Hendrix playing the bass.
Oh,
and it was
Jesus,
like
I forgot that's what this is. Yeah.
This and recently I saw what that track was. By the way, it wasn't that bass, but I'll tell the story. And so he sends us this stuff and says, do whatever you want. Well, you just told two crazy ass people, like, do whatever you want. So basically it turned into a straight like hard style fucking a song that's not even like the drop isn't even in the same key as the verse.
You can't even imagine how different the two songs are. what I started with and what it became, they're just not even remotely the same. It's a different universe it's from. It's fantastic.
And I sent him it and I said, what do you think? And he said, what did you use from the original? And I said, oh, that siren sound you hear throughout the whole verse is the piano sped up as much as you possibly can, because if you speed up a piano completely, it becomes like basically a saw wave type I mean, so it was audio and I just like, we just took it and stretched it like as little as possible. And that was what we used from the original song. Like,
right. And the idea there,
get mad?
right. But I mean, the cool idea there is, I mean, yes, it's silly and fun and crazy and it's a crazy story. But the reality is what we're doing, right, is like, we're giving each other creative sparks, triggers, something, a catalyst, you know what I mean? So here's a sound, you know what I mean? Here's a sound. And then that's something to start with. And like, okay, what am I going to do with this sound? I'm going to make it sound like this. And I'm going to put a beat on it. And then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to say, hey, I need more sound. So he calls me up and he says, all right, you need a piano on this now too. And then I'll do the piano, you know what I mean? So it's a collaborative, experimental, bouillabaisse of sounds and experimental process. And it's just freaking fun. And you make cool music in the end, so rock.
That also works because we both love crazy.
Sure. And you got to know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You got to learn how to walk before you can run. So if I'm going to record tracks and send them to Kilo, I better know how to record tracks. You know what I mean? Like, so,
what you're describing reminds me of, have you ever seen four producers, one sample? You guys ever see that? Where
I
they
don't
just
think so,
give
no.
4 producers the same sample and see what they come out with it and come
That's
out.
fun.
That sounds awesome.
It's like they come out with like completely different stuff. Like
That's
some
awesome.
like chop it all up and like make a drum kit out of every part or just use it as a sample or whatever. It's very interesting to see the creativity that people create with just the same sound, like the same sound,
Right.
So it kind of describes, like, it sounds like what you're describing a bit.
Yeah, that's basically what we do, really. Yeah.
Well, the song that we're talking about technically is an experiment that me and him and Matt have been doing, which is like a kind of based off of the art of flow class, like how they do stream of consciousness writing. Well, we do stream of consciousness music. So Bob sends me and Matt just random stuff because he has so much music that he's made in his life. He'll send us something and say, do whatever the fuck you want. And then we'll be like, okay, now give us a guitar, or like give us a melody for the drop or whatever. And then when we're all done with it, we just put it the fuck out. Like because we own our own label, we have the ability to just immediately put it out and not care what happened. We just do it all in one process. And it's actually really amazing music that if we spent a month agonizing over one lead, it would never fucking happen.
No, and the fun thing is, like, we will decide, because we've got 3 different artists, right? We just decide when it's done, we'll go, this sounds more like Kilo, this sounds more like Matt, or this sounds more like Bob, and that's who releases it, and because the music doesn't, because sometimes it's crazy, it's Kilo's crazy gabber hardcore awesome stuff, and then sometimes it's really pretty melodic jazz, you know what I mean? So like it just depends, so
the stream of consciousness thing is very, very, I don't know what the word is, interesting. Like, I've ever seen on Netflix that I think it's called Abstract, where different professions, but anyways, this guy starts off with a stream of consciousness like in a book, and he's actually like a famous shoe inventor, but like the book, he's just like, it's just shapes. And then it just goes on and it takes a form, and then it goes on, and eventually it just becomes this shoe that we now know to this day, but he didn't even have any like idea what he was going to start off with. So like that's that stream of consciousness, it's very strange, because in order for us to be creative, we can't say, hey, get creative. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a weird situation in order to get creative. And actually, while I'm on that, I came to a conclusion. How a lot of producers work till like the wee hours in the morning?
I do that.
I have a theory about that. 1, you're not going to be disturbed as much, right? Because it's late. 2, I think you get a little bit of delirium, you get a little delirious.
Yes.
And so you become a little bit more creative because you're delirious into the wee hours. And, I understand that, but I also tell the students, like, don't let that be a crutch. That's not a healthy way of producing, but I think that's what they're doing.
I absolutely have. I don't know if I've said it on the show, but I've actually told Bob this, that like, when you're that tired, because I'll do stuff all day, then play video games and then produce. And it's like, I've told him it's as good as being drunk or any other thing like that for producing, because you're no longer thinking about what you're doing. You're just fucking putting it on the page and just music, and you wake up and you're like, how the fuck did I do that? That's sick. And it's stuff. I mean, I have this crazy thing I do with the kick that I never would have thought of if it wasn't for that. That is breaking every rule in the fucking possible. Every rule you've ever thought of, Alex. I'm ashamed to even tell you what I and it was because I'm basically using on glue compressors on a channel that is being sidechained to a sound. I'm using the monitoring button. So the little headphones button that shows you what sound you're sidechaining, and then pressing the living shit out of them over and over and over onto this track that's playing what
that is pretty crazy.
Exactly. It's insane.
Every day is a conversation like this. Kilo saying some insane thing that he did
Right.
every day.
Because it sounds fucking amazing, but
It sounds amazing.
Well, you need a little segment within this thing is like Kilo's crazy tips or something, try it at your own risk. Try it.
Right. Don't try that, please don't.
Don't try it at home.
Trust me, because it's like in a guitar channel I had done for a different song, but somehow in the middle of the night I wanted to make a new song, so I didn't like make a new project. I just added into that and muted everything else. And so then it's like in a fucking guitar channel with a glue compressor on that, kind of just compressing the guitars a little bit. It's insane.
Happy accidents make a lot of our great music. Think about like Phil Collins in the Air to the Night and the gated snare and stuff. That was a real big happy accident.
Right.
There's a lot of those.
It kind of defined the drum sounds of the mid 80s.
All the 80s right there. Yeah.
Although I think some would say that he stole that from his former bandmate Peter Gabriel, who was doing pretty awesome gated drums before Phil. But who knows? I don't know.
Theory. If you can't make it, steal it. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah.
Steal the idea.
That actually, in my opinion, I know like your audience members may be a little too young, but in my opinion, that is the greatest single rollout in history. Because if you think about it, it was like on Miami Vice during prime time at 8 o'clock in the 80s when there's no DVRs or like Netflix or like you can't watch it over. Basically, all of America was sitting down to watch this, and they played the song in its entirety. Well, I forget their name. True. In the Ferrari, just drive down the freeway. And that's a long song, a very long song. Imagine if they like try to put a new single on like Game of Thrones. People would be really mad at that. It wouldn't happen nowadays, but
that song is iconic 100%. And it was like you said. I mean, I am old enough to remember. I did watch Miami Vice when it was live on TV, and you're 100%
all
right.
of America watched it, and
oh my god, it was everything. So we should do the questions, huh?
Yes, right. I was going to say the same thing exactly. Right. Perfect. Okay. Yes, awesome. So if you haven't seen the show before, you guys, we do this thing that I think is fun and awesome, which is like a round robin of questions, kind of like a asking your own risk type of thing, because you have to answer your own question. And the goal behind it is kind of to get to know the artist through the question they ask and through their answers, but also to get to see the people that you just watch talk about the industry and all this awesome shit. They still have normal things. That's why we ask an industry question and then we ask a normal people question. So you realize at the end of this, like, oh, they're just a person. They like the same water as me, or they, watch the same show as me, or whatever. So I'm excited, and now we will start. Bob, please go first.
Bob, go first. Oh,
Bob, go first.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Well,
I'll go first.
You go first.
I'll go first. Alex, what is your favorite song you've ever worked on, ever, and why?
Oh, favorite.
The best is your favorite, maybe to work on because you learned something new or something like that.
Oh, so the actual process of recording, not the favorite song, but your favorite process, like time in the studio working.
Oh, the favorite process. Okay, I could do that.
Okay, yeah.
So when I was over, the buddy that got me over at Westlake, his name is Doug. He, whenever he produces, he kind of takes me under the wing and kind of teaches me kind of the Westlake process. And it's very interesting because I come from vocal driven music, and it's never ever started with music. It's always started with an idea and emotion, and then the lyrics, the top line, and then all of the instrumentation that is produced is meant to help convey whatever emotion the lyric is trying to evoke, right? And so
Right.
that process has just kind of been some of my favorite process to witness, and what I actually carried on to this day into my stuff.
That's awesome.
I like that.
How about you, Bob?
Well, I would say probably my favorite, I would just say maybe my favorite session, right? Or one of them. I have a really great memory. In 1998, I recorded my first solo album. So I had all through the 90s, I was in a band called SHU, SHU. We traveled all around the Northeast, played the college circuit, and we were sort of a ska band but it was like a jam band scene. So we were kind of like, we'd start with a ska beat and then just kind of go in this kind of freeform jazz shit. You know what I mean? We were that's what we were. We were 90s hippie ska jam band. Anyway, and I came off the road in 98 and I just, worked my day job. And then I was writing songs at home. And my buddy owned a recording studio, my buddy Mark Fuller, who has, this is a real studio. My buddy Fuller, he had the studio in Greenwich, New York, which is out in the middle of nowhere, but it was this barn. He bought it from our other friend, Ree Shed, who was, who had a lot of money, and he built this real world-class studio. Anyway, the point is that it really, Mark's got a Grammy. He recorded Kanye West there. This Kanye's song "Jesus Walks" on his first album, College Dropout, was recorded by my friend Mark Fuller at the studio. So, and I used to record there all the time. That was my home away from home, right? I used to go there all the time. And in 98, I recorded my Bob Smith solo album, my first solo album. And it was just me and Mark in the studio for like a weekend. And this is 2-inch analog tape with a big freaking Mackie board. This is a real deal, old school analog recording studio session. And we just had a blast, just drinking and smoking and playing guitars and having a blast for a weekend recording songs. So that's probably awesome. My favorite one.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to answer my own question now. Okay, I have two really quick answers. One, I recorded the first time I ever recorded drums with a band. I was recording at this studio downtown Tulsa that's done a lot of rock albums and stuff. And I'm recording, and then these two people come in, and the guy and the engineer recording me goes, "I want you to come talk to someone." And I was actually recording at the moment this happened. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, what's up?" He had realized that a band that he knew, like, that was on tour, was there that night. So the drummer from Seether and the drummer from Bowling for Soup came and watched me record, and I didn't know they were watching me. And then I got to talk to them. They were like, "Keep it up, man. Like, you're blah, blah, blah," whatever they said. But it was cool to be like, wait, I'm recording for the very first time. And these very famous drummers that I listened to Bowling for Soup, obviously I look like I'm a fuck, so I listened to them, no offense to them. I look like a punk ass kid, and I'm not a kid anymore. So, but it was just cool, that one. And then my favorite, that I was the, I guess the engineer and the part of the artistry of it, is the first time I ever recorded vocals was in a dining room in a house in Tulsa, in the not the worst side, but not the best side. But I was writing a song with this artist, and we realized, wait, we need a vocal booth type of idea to make it sound good. So we went and we bought a bunch of the foam from Walmart, and we hung Snuggies from the vaulted ceiling down and ran the wire through the arm of the Snuggie blanket thing and recorded it that way. And it sounds good. It's a song I have out right now. It sounds good enough for me to have put it out years later going, wait, that was not a shit turn. Like
Right.
that's my favorite because it was like a mission. Like we didn't even know what we were doing, getting what we were gonna get. We just bought a bunch of shit and like stuck it to stuff and made it work. And I love it because now I have like access to big studios and stuff, and I know stuff, and I have better programs and better tools. And still, I'm like, how the fuck does that sound so good? Like it's in all thought, it should not have sounded that good, but almost like maybe the passion behind the project made it sound good because people are like, oh, you did a great job. And I'm like, yeah, that was recorded in a fucking dining room. So it just begs to say, like, you don't need the best shit. Like you don't need multi-million-dollar studios and shit to make stuff that sounds good. Anyways, now Bob, you ask a question.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Alex, you had mentioned that you came from a hip hop background, rap music background. That's what you like. You wouldn't expect it, but I'm a big hip hop fan as well. And I write about hip hop a lot.
Work with me though, so he would expect it.
Yeah. So anyway, and so this is an East Coast, West Coast question. Cause I'm from New York. Right. And I grew up listening to old school hip hop, like, New York hip hop, you know what I mean? Like, from Fat Five Freddy, Run DMC to right up, to Chuck D and Boogie Down Productions and shit like that. So that's where I come from. So my question basically is as simple as, who's your favorite old school hip hop artist, old school rapper favorite?
What era?
Well, yeah, I always tell people whenever I ask questions on this show, I don't really elaborate. You interpret the question you want to. I just said old school, but it doesn't have to be. But I'm kind of looking for like old school West Coast rap that you were, the Bay Area rap that you were down with.
How do I
back in
answer
the day?
I'm not
for Bay Area, I mean, they're not super known, but I mean, we have like the E40s and the Too Shorts, and then
Too Short was pretty big.
Yeah,
Too
Too Short was pretty big.
My dad listens to him, and my dad anyways.
Dad? Yeah. And then we had like Mac Dre. I don't know, but like if you're gonna say
anybody, let's go anybody. It doesn't have to be West Coast.
You were just some kid in high school in San Francisco listening to hip hop. What'd you like?
It was probably Snoop. It was probably Snoop.
There you go. Right on. Okay.
Which again is arguably one of the greatest singles to ever come out too, right? It's
nothing
Snoop
but a G thing.
Snoop Dogg, like he introduced himself to the world, and the single and the hook was Snoop, his name.
Oh, yeah,
that is true. You're very very wise on that.
Oh, that was stuff. Yeah, when that came
out. It's just both. I listen to everything. I grew up on. Well, during the NWA days, and then all the people you mentioned, like Big Al, you know what I mean? You have Run DMC, you have LL Cool J, because I'm a little bit older. And then, obviously you have the East Coast and West Coast, like you said, where it's Tupac and Biggie, whereas you can't ask me about that. That's apples and oranges, where Tupac is what he said was really potent, but at the same time, what Biggie did was like jazz, even when he did his name, like NOTORIOUS, UJS, like he was jazz, like it was just
and he was a storyteller, like he would say, like, a lot of, obviously a lot of his stuff was real, and he was a real gangster back in the day, and it didn't serve him well later on, but he said a lot of his stories, they were stories. He was making them up, or he would tell a real story but he would elaborate because he wanted it to be entertaining. And that's what he did. His stories all of his raps are like a crazy, long ass, complicated narrative. You know what I mean? And they're fun. It's like watching a movie.
And it's still here, right? They said it was a fad when it was NWA.
Yeah.
But
right.
You know why it's never going to go away, though, is because like hip hop is a young man's genre, right? So they just latch onto it and make it what they want. So it's never going to go away. It just changes. And
that's right. And it shouldn't. Hip hop's fantastic. I love it. So, Kilo, your answer. Who's your favorite?
Is the question? You did the question 3 different times. So what's the actual question?
Well, I was just basically, we all are hip hop fans and were when we were younger. So I'm asking, who was your favorite rapper when you were younger?
I didn't like rap when I was younger.
Okay.
So that's horrible. I hate saying that. But like I was never around it. Like at first I was always like the kid, the listen to Blink-182 and that's it. Like, that type of thing. And
Right.
so
What about your question being who changed your mind on that?
Yeah, there you go. What was the first rapper you liked? How about that?
the first rap song I can do,
Okay.
if I can remember what it's called, Hustling by Rick Ross. Even back in the days when I looked exactly like this, but didn't make any music like it, I could sing every fucking word of that. I don't know why either. Like, I don't know why I didn't go, wait, this is dope. I'm enjoying myself. Let me listen to everything else like this.
Interesting
Like,
choice too. Rick Ross, I would not have expected that.
okay, here's the story.
That was a big song.
Yeah.
Somebody, and I really don't remember who, so this is another lie, left their entire like binder full of CDs. Remember back in the day when you had to
Sure,
carry
yeah.
around like a leather
Yeah.
binder?
Yeah, you got
that
like
was
a CD wallet. I mean, all the shit.
like,
in it,
but
yeah.
it wasn't a wallet. If your
No, it
wallet
was a
is
big one,
big,
yeah.
bro, you're rich as fuck. Like it was like a CD, like it was the size of a cake, a birthday cake. And like it had tons of CDs in it, and most of it was rap. So I actually don't remember who it was. But like so I guess hearing that song really did change my mind on rap, even though I didn't like flourish that idea until later. And I was like, oh, it's all good. Why didn't I just listen to more? Because I think that must have been one of the first CDs I put in, and the other ones were like CDs I already knew. They were like Eminem and stuff. But when I heard that song, I think it was even the single, like the album single of that song, I just literally memorized every fucking word because I just felt cool as fuck. Just immediately cool as fuck. But actually, I can remember one older one than that. Do you guys know who Bus Driver is?
I don't
No.
think so. No.
That's some random ass thing for me as a very young kid. Like
Okay.
as a kid, but he like rapped really, really fast. It's some hip hop song that some people know and some people don't, but I did used to listen to that. But definitely Rick Ross, that shit, Hustling, I'll still listen to it to this day and
Cool.
feel like I'm just the coolest person ever. That comes
That's-
from someone who, when I heard it, I didn't necessarily associate like that with like coolness or not, either or. It wasn't that, oh, it's a rap song, so I'm cool. It was just, holy shit, something about this song makes me feel like I'm cool. And he's cool and I'm cool. Like, so yeah, I don't know. That's
I
a
think
horrible
I think that's what draws a lot of people to rap, though. I feel, anyways. Like, even if they can't relate what they're talking about, is like how unapologetically themselves they are. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like Tupac was a great example. It's like it was just what I am is what I am.
Yeah, right.
People like that.
That begs an interesting comment real fast though, because I saw an interview on a podcast, No Jumper, that I love watching. When Hobson, who I love Hobson, if Hobson ever gets to watch this, please hit me up. I love you. You're the best. But Hobson was talking about how he doesn't like to write those kind of flashy lyrics about like, I have this car and that car and this thing and that thing. And he was talking about how he doesn't want to look like he's flexing on his fans. He doesn't want to write music that looks like it's flexing. But when I listen to songs that are talking about the new Lamborghini and the this and that, it makes me envision that I have that. So when I'm singing along with the lyrics, I'm not thinking he's flexing on me. I feel like we're flexing on people together. Like whenever I listen to any music that's flexing, like
I have something for that. I usually tell like the rapper to change it from I to we.
Oh, that's good.
So like when people are listening, it feels like, oh, he's talking about us, not just him.
Then when
that's funny because that's good advice for any writer. Like as a writer, I've always I've always given that advice to people. It's just writing, because like writing anything is to basically get rid of all the I's. Stop saying I. Don't talk about yourself. Talk about the thing that you're talking about. That's I agree with that.
Well, when I listen to music, I listen to it in the first person though. Maybe I'm just fucking weird. But like,
no, that's what music does. People relate to music, That's why fans sending people messages like, you helped me through tough times and things of that nature.
Right. I just see it as an I thing, like I as in me. So then again,
I wasn't saying that it was bad to say I all the time. Just saying in general, it's a good exercise in writing to try to do
we is smart, but that begs the question: am I listening to it a little different, where when they say I'm doing this, I'm like, yeah, I am doing that. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
I don't know. Anyways, that was an off-topic thing. Hobson, I love you. Don't be mad.
Right.
Your turn to ask a question, Alex.
All right, my question for the industry is, you know, I think we all been doing this a while. Like, what skill do you think you're maybe not as strong
Oh, I
in
can answer that.
that
I know my
you
answer.
feel like you probably would have gotten a little bit stronger if you could take back the time?
Oh, I have two great answers. I'll just go first, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Chords, I don't play chords myself ever. I don't play them. I can't play them. I will learn how to play them. I'm dedicated to learning, but now that I have Bob, I'm not. Like I can't do that, and I never put chords in my music before I worked with Bob, and my teacher, like after I graduated, was like, "That's fine. You're outlining your chords with your melody and your bass line, whatever." But no, that's not true. I was not. But chords, I wish I could just, because I want to make this new genre called funk, not like the heavy portion of funk, but like the ambient funk music.
Mhm.
And like, it is only chords. I never thought there would be a genre that I like that's just chords and like hard
Like-
out fucking.
You know what you should do, Kilo? So what I did 100 million years ago to learn basically to learn how to play guitar, right? And I taught myself when I was 16, 15 years old. And I got a book of scales and I got a book of chords. And basically I learned how to harmonize a scale. That's like basically if you know how to harmonize a scale, you know music theory. I mean, that is what music
I
theory is.
write a chord out, but like
No, what harmonizing a scale is basically like a major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Each of those is a note. So you start on C, like middle C, right? So C, and I'm saying C because in the key of C major, everything is natural. There are no flats or sharps. So just C, D, E, F, G to C. And so to harmonize a scale, you play it's simple. It's really simple if you think about it, but to explain it gets a little bit funky. But every note is like when you think of a key, like the key of C major, every chord that's in that key, every note that's in every chord in that key is in the scale C major. That's how keys work. That's how chords work, right? So when I harmonize a scale in C major, I play a C major chord, which is C, E, G, and I play a D minor chord, which is D, F, A, and then you're going to go up and basically you play all those chords, and that, and there's a chord for every one, and it's the same. It doesn't matter what key you start in. Like you could start in D. The 1 is always a major, the 2 is a minor, the 3 is a minor. You know what I mean? And the 4 is a major, and that's how a harmonizing scale goes. And then my point is that if you learn that, the most basic music theory thing of harmonizing a scale, everything else stems from that, right? You got that, then that like when I talk about like I wrote this song in D Lydian or whatever. I just started on a different note. I mean, that's all that means. You know what I mean? Like a D Lydian is a mode, and all these complicated terms really just mean like I started on the 4th. Instead of the 1, I started on the 4. Now it's a Lydian scale. It's the same notes, same everything. So anyway,
that's my answer. I don't mean what I said at all.
I know. I try to make it.
I know how to make
simple.
chords. I know chords. That's not what I meant. This whole time I've told people that I don't know how to write a good chord progression. There we go. See, Alex was talking about how or maybe he wasn't. Maybe your mentee was talking to me about something about that, but like wording it correctly, and I did not word my answer right at all.
But that was what I just described to you, right? The harmonizing scale. That's how you learn how to write a chord progression. That's how that's how you know, because then you know what chords fit in the key.
I guess it's the feeling, right? And Bob knows about the feeling thing, like the feeling, like I don't know how to. I guess I know my problem now, Bob. You understand? I know my problem. But the other part of my answer is my sound design skills are fucking trash balls. Put a fucking shit on it, and then you make a hard style sound out of a side chain. That's if you listen to my tracks, whoever's watching, go listen. They sound like I know what I'm doing, but it's just me just being a dumbass. And then I'm like, that works good. I like that. never been good at like looking at Serum, Silent, plugins and being like, okay, now I need to make oscillator one do this. Like, so that I am 100% terrible, 0%.
But listen to us. It's funny how like it's a common misconception of like musicians, the music route is like the easy route, like contrary to what they like. It's so much discipline, because what you described is really, it's just having the discipline to sit down and do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just sit down and do it. And everybody thinks like going the musician route is lazy, but it takes.
No, bro. I tell my friends that don't do music like that. They're like, oh, you live in LA and you do this and that, and I'm like, yeah, it's all great, but also we don't get a day off. Like you don't get to, unless you plan it in your mind and you're like, I'm gonna do nothing today, which you never do nothing because you love it, but then you realize like, oh shit, like I've been working on this for 10 hours now. Like you don't, it is a passionate thing that you have to do all day, every day if you want. There's not a day that I'm not like, Bob, I need this guitar for this song, for that thing, for this thing, for that thing. Like, especially once you reach like all three of our levels, like there's not a day we don't have to do something for the label or the podcast or our music or
we don't want to. I mean, the thing is, you want, it's fun. I mean, doing all this stuff's fun.
Oh yes, I'm not complaining, but you said it's a lot of hard work. It is hard work.
It is.
It's not that it's not fun hard work.
Right.
It's definitely fun.
Well, also there's also a certain level of craziness, right? Because that discipline is needed because we're like putting our passion and our creativity into this with no like monetization in sight. You know what I mean? We don't really know. So we're a little crazy, we need that discipline to get up and do that stuff every day because we're not seeing the ROI right away.
It's an obsession. It really is an obsession though, really, if you look at it at the end of the day. Like I won't be happy if I don't work on music today. I'm sorry, you guys. You wouldn't have to be happy right now if I didn't. It's like a drug that you have to do something towards it. Like that's the drive. That if you don't have that drive and you're listening to it right now and you're like, I could do this. No, you can't. I'm sorry. You would be the 10 or more kids that dropped out of Icon when I went, because you won't have that passion to do the level of extensive shit you got to do, especially in this day and age, like when like people are already mixing, mastering their own shit, writing, mixing, mastering, recording their own voices, like all this shit. You won't be able to keep up with that if it's not like a driving hurt inside of you where it's like, I don't feel good unless I make music today. Anyway,
I'll tell you what what works for. We were talking about, well, Kilo and I got to be friends and how we started working together, and you wouldn't expect it, whatever. But one of the tightest bonds we have is mutual ADHD and caffeine addiction. We're both completely ADHD obsessive nut jobs, and we suck down coffee and Red Bull or whatever he drinks all day long.
Yeah,
that's a good thing to do.
Okay, answer Alex.
Oh yeah. Can I ask what the question was again? We kind of went off on a
tangent. What can you work on? Oh, sorry.
What do I need to work on? Well, I mean, lots of stuff. I guess I would say.
Was that the question?
Yeah, more or less. It was kind of like, we have all these skills that we built up over the years. Which one do we feel, if we could go back in time, we probably would have paid a little bit more attention to?
Right. Yeah. Well, I would say, I mean, I could probably make my bigger answer to that would be everything. I mean, I kind of, because I don't mean that flippantly. I mean that, I talk about my, I kind of briefly mentioned that I was on the road through my 20s and then kind of came off the road and then, had a day job. And basically I took, there was about 15 years of my life where music was in the passenger seat. And I was a corporate guy and I was making music. I was playing gigs, I was recording and stuff, but it was not my focus, and I wish that period of time did not last as long as it had, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. It's over now. Yeah, but I would say that as far as things I would like to work on, things that I would like that I wish I was better at, maybe I don't know, I probably would have benefited. Well, I mean, anything. I would have benefited from a formal education. I learned everything on my own, playing, writing, recording, mixing, mastering, playing guitar, everything I did by myself. And I got good at it eventually, but probably would have gone a lot faster if I'd gone to school for it. So
That's our ad for Icon Collective.
there you go. Yeah, no, I definitely
don't be
trust
like
me.
no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm not one of these people that like says you don't need school. I learned everything myself. I did learn everything myself, and I am good at it. And it took me 30 freaking years. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like you don't need to take 30 years to kind of reach your, where your artistic vision. You know what I mean? And I feel as though I did. I feel as though I am now doing what I think is right for me artistically. But and I think it took a very long time to get there. So
I have to agree with you, Bob, and just say this to people who are watching who've seen us interview many people from Icon and have me talking and then Bob talking. You see the parallel. I would just say one thing is that I realize is like, yes, we all have a laptop and we all have Google and we all have YouTube and we all can, say what settings to put on the compressor to do this thing or that thing. But the amount of questions you don't know to ask outweighs the amount of questions you do ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the things that you will learn when you learn from people like Alex who know what the fuck they're talking about are things that you wouldn't even think to go, I should learn this.
right.
Like I want to know how to do this. Because you'll just be like, how do I make it fatter? Buy a fucking sausage fattener. I don't know. Like that's a thing, So yeah, I agree.
I love that. That's a thing.
It's a thing. You gotta, yes, do buy that. No, don't buy that. But yeah, it really does a wonderful wonder of difference because I wouldn't have known, all the things to ask what it does
There you
if
go.
I didn't go to school. So
Alex has to answer his own question now.
Mine is very much along the lines of what like Hilo, like a lot of music theory, playing an instrument and things of that nature. But while I was listening to you guys, and what I've changed, and I was thinking about my question, it's kind of like I think some of the stuff I changed because of like societal expectations. You know what I mean? Because if we think back, if I would have just been kept doing what I was doing as a teenager, which was selling weed and making music, look at the weed industry now, you know what I mean? Even let's throw video games into that. How many times my mom would say that's not going to do anything.
You're never going anywhere with that.
Yeah. Now
playing video games.
Now look at these kids, you know what I mean? So I don't know, maybe, some of it is music theory, but just like believing in myself and what I wanted to do and what it would take, where it would take me. You know what I mean?
I guess that's kind of what I was saying too. You know what I mean? That's kind of a different version of what I was.
Yeah, that's why it kind of came up is exactly. It's like those societal expectations,
Right on, man.
This is the point in the show where I explained that being in a wheelchair makes life better. I never had a ton of things like that I loved as much as music. Once I heard, and I'm gonna say this again, like I said jokingly earlier, when I first heard Blink-182 talk about crazy, stupid shit, like I was like, I want music, and music is the only thing that matters. I didn't know how I would do music, but music really, technically from the song, I think it's called All Star by Smash Mouth. From that song forward, I was like, music is everything to me. So I got lucky that my brain literally just said music. And there was a very little brief time where I went to college and stuff, but like nothing mattered other than listening to music because I wasn't making music at that moment. So go be in a wheelchair, everybody. I'm joking.
Well, since you said that, I'm actually sitting in that Art of Flow class, and there's somebody that spoke up. He has one arm, right? And he talked about him when he was 4 years old wanting to be a drummer, right? Right. And so he said, like, he didn't get somebody to teach him, and he felt like that was beneficial because they don't like, how are you going to teach a one-armed kid how to like drum, right? You're gonna like set expectations for him, whereas he was 4 years old, like he didn't know any better. He was just like, I just want to do it, and he figured out a way to do it. And I felt like that was really, really inspiring.
Dude, if we get together, we would be a full person. We would have fucking sick.
You would just be two badass drummers, my friend.
I would love
That's
to see, that is really interesting. I'd love to see how he figured out to do it. Because I play drums with one arm. I mean,
All right, you got that thing going on.
usually see the gimpy arm, but I keep it hidden. It's my precious. But Alex knows that, and I drummed death metal for years with one arm. And you're right, though, and I've said this on the show. When there are, did you say no expectations? Is that what you just said, Alex?
Yeah.
You literally used my words I've said in previous episodes. When there's no expectation to succeed, you just find a fucking way because your brain no longer has hurdles to jump over, right? When no one's telling you you can do it, or the society's not telling you you can do it, or you're not even telling you can do it. It's basically like being like almost like self-detrimental to go, I want to be a drummer, right? But I just did. And it's because my friend played the drums and I heard it and I was like, I'm going to do that. And it is really a lack of even expecting to be good at it that made me good at it, because then I learned how to play the drums really well. And it was just like my friend, I sat down in front of a drum set that was set up really badly. And my friend was like, oh, fuck, because he's a drummer. And he was like, oh, fuck, you're going to have to hit you're going to have to hit two things at once. And I just happened to have the hi-hat on this side and the snare on that side. And he was like, well, you know, bro, we can figure it out. And then I figured out how to hold the sticks in one hand and hit both things. So it was really just a happy accident that the things were set up on the opposite side of each other, but I didn't know how to play the drums. So I wasn't expecting to set it up any certain way. I just set it up where it looks cool here and it looks cool there. And that's how I thought it worked when I was younger and dumb. So yeah, you're right. It really is 100%. He's right. And you should introduce me to him sometime.
Yeah.
That's big to like talk to him and be like, yeah, how did you figure it out? And it'd be I think we would have a great conversation about that. So anyways, on to the random part of the show, the random questions real fast, because we always do those at the end, and they're my favorite part, because it's like, oh, this gets to know somebody's personality. Let's see. Bob, can you go first, please, this time? Please. Because my mind just wants to think of music right this second, so maybe it'll spawn a good question if you ask one.
Right. Well, Alex, do you have a random question before I come up with
the personal one?
Yeah. Do you have one?
I have a random question.
All right, go for it. Right.
What is your guys's like guilty pleasure listening? Like you don't tell anybody.
Oh, everyone knows mine. Didn't tell anybody or haven't ever told anybody. Because I've told on my show my guilty pleasure music, but
well, I think you gotta just say it, because I think it's legit. You got to be honest. You know, what is your guilty pleasure?
No, I because I don't know if I have one that's like any more a secret, because we've done that on the show before.
Right.
So you go ahead, go first, Bob. I will think.
All right. Well, I would, I like, I guess as far as guilty in that, like, people would be surprised or probably laugh at me if I like it or whatever. I don't know. I like so many different kinds of music that I don't really care what people think of it, but probably the best example would be Neil Diamond. Neil Diamond's great. Neil Diamond is one of the greatest songwriters that's ever walked this planet, and he's freaking awesome. So there you go, Neil Diamond. Do I listen to Neil Diamond every day? No. But do I appreciate his music? Yes. Very much so.
You listen to it every day. I think that's what you're telling us, so it can stay.
I don't listen to it. I would though. I listen. Yeah, I just listen to music all the time. But anyway, I'll say Neil Diamond.
One that's the most untold to people, because my first answer would be the Killers, because when I was growing up, I thought no one liked me if I listened to them. But now I'm like, fuck you if you don't listen to them.
Killers are fantastic. Yeah, you're gonna be nuts now.
Not a good answer anymore, because I'll scream to the world that I like Killers. But I guess Roger Miller, which is a country artist,
right?
Like Roger Miller really would be mine.
Got no cigarettes. That's Roger Miller, King of the Road.
I'm King of the Road. Yeah, so Roger Miller for sure.
Right on.
All right, mine would be, I guess a lot of people don't know, is like as pop as you can go.
Okay.
Like, Britney Spears stuff,
Yeah.
like
Oh, you weren't talking a
anything
specific.
like Max Martin, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
We like Britney Spears. We
Yeah,
both.
I saw
both
Britney
people
Spears
love
in
like Britney
concert
Spears.
in Las Vegas in 2001. I saw Britney Spears at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. I was in the
There's
seventh
just,
row.
and people always ask me why, and the reason why is like pop music is a really tough genre because it's so strict.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of rules, so it's really
Yeah.
hard.
Along
that-
those lines, I will say I love Katy Perry. I love her music.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Katy
So
Perry's-
I didn't even think of that one
phenomenal
because to me, who fucking cares if you don't like her music? I do. Like
Right.
that was why. But no, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like things like
Right.
that. Perry.
Awesome.
yeah.
But that was a good question.
That is really cool though, that to see you and we talking all this thug life shit and like hip hop shit and stuff, and then you're like, like pop stuff. I'm like, it made me realize like to someone that's not a producer and someone that isn't an engineer and someone that doesn't mix and match stuff, they might see that as a little weird, but to us, or at least me, it's like, that's good. Pop music is good music. Like
Yeah.
it's pop music for a fucking reason.
Sure.
You know,
Popular.
Right.
People like it.
popular for a reason. It's just good. So,
Mhm.
anyways, okay, Bob, have you thought of your random ass question?
Have I thought of my random ass question? I have not. I've only thought of my answer to Alex's random ass question.
Oh,
So-
I
What's-
will
Yeah, you go ahead. I will think of a question this time.
think of a random ass question. What is, let me think. I almost asked one I don't know the answer to. So what is the last movie you saw in theaters?
That's actually a good
I
question.
saw The Woman King.
Okay.
That was really good. It was really interesting. You know what's really interesting about that is because right now like an article is saying that it's marking like the return of like not big budget, like small budget films, because like a lot of people are not going to the movies right now.
Right.
So
Yeah,
why
yeah.
put a lot of money into these movies? Not really, the money's going into like these like TV shows like The Mandalorian and like the Game of Thrones and stuff.
Mhm.
Not really money like the movies. So like this Woman King was a low budget film and it did really, really well. So I think it's the start of us starting to see that again, like going
Cool.
back
And
to like
Indie
storytelling.
film. Right?
Yeah, like the story, the meat of it. You know what I mean? It was really, really good.
Stuff.
Well,
Right
that's
on.
probably good. We probably need to return to the past like we do as society every few hundred years, and blow ourselves up or something and return back that way movie wise, because it got into just big budget garbage, in my personal opinion. Whatever. But that's actually pretty cool that
Now, on
that.
the other hand, I did buy my Black Panther tickets, which isn't until like a month out, but they're sold out. I had to get them like a week pushed
Well,
back.
is it I mean, is it the same guy? Is it the
Oh,
No,
he's
he passed away, so it's his sister.
He's not a ghost actor, bro.
Why not? Well, I know, but movies take a long time to make. They might have shot it before he died, is what I was asking.
He's not in it. It's his sister. He's dead in it.
It's like about him being dead and like
That is
Black
sister.
Panther is dead,
But
right?
Michonne from The Walking Dead will still be in it, and she's badass. So there's
Yeah.
that.
What about you, Bob?
Oh yeah. Oh wait, am I answering a question or asking a question now?
Answering a question.
And the
movie.
question
The last movie.
movie
you
the last
saw.
time I saw a movie in the theater. That's a really good question. I mean,
the last
with
movie you
COVID and everything,
saw?
I don't remember the last time I went to a theater.
The
Really.
last movie you saw, then I guess is a.
No, I'm thinking, no, let me think about it. I'm just saying it's a long time ago. I don't know. Geez, maybe
Did you
Deadpool.
watch- Did,
Maybe
did-
the-
did you
maybe
guys
the
watch?
last-
Did you guys watch the Dahmer?
No,
I
I
want,
haven't
I'm way into murder, death, kill stuff. I love Forensic Files and all that shit. I watch all, I was like, which is funny because if you knew me, Kilo knows, like I'm a pacifist. I've never even been in a fight. You know what I mean? Like I'm the most non-violent person in the
funny.
world, but I watch all this death TV shows. And
That's probably
Dahmer,
why you can handle it.
yeah, well, it's just fascinating. It's like I can't understand how people get to where they get. You know what I mean? Like it's because it's always like, it's either somebody sick and twisted like Dahmer, and Dahmer, I want to watch that because he's always been so confusing to me. He's so complex because he's not Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was a sociopath that didn't give a damn. He killed, he enjoyed it. He'd do it again. If he was alive, he'd be killing somebody right now. Jeffrey Dahmer hated himself his entire life, hated what he was, drank himself silly just so he could kill because he had to, but he hated it. You know what I mean? That's a sick and twisted and complicated person that is fascinating, but it's also so dark that it's, I don't know if I can get myself to watch it. It's very dark, that's a dark story. So, eesh.
Did you
Anyway.
did you answer the question?
No, that wasn't even the question, was it? That's
I think
Oh yeah, he did. He said Deadpool.
I said Deadpool. I think I guessing. I know I saw Deadpool in the theater. I don't think I've been in the theater since before the pandemic. I think I've watched everything on television since then. So
Deadpool
That's
would have
why.
been my last answer, actually, Deadpool 2. But I saw the new Halloween movie last night.
oh, there you go.
Oh,
Right
I forgot
on.
about that. Yeah.
Right
I did
on.
not forget about it. I have been looking forward to it for a year.
All right.
So that is,
Is
my
that the last one though?
I'm not telling you shit.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Is it the last one?
Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't die, right?
I'm
mean,
not
they-
telling you
Oh,
shit.
come on. Come on. You can't kill Jamie Lee Curtis. All
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
Anyway,
Maybe you can't kill her. No.
I
That
have
is-
to answer a question. I have to ask a question, don't I? Don't I still have a question to ask?
Yes, we skipped over you twice.
And then we should probably we'll
Yeah,
probably
and well,
let Alex go live his life after this. Probably.
right. We appreciate you, Alex. You've done great, and it's been super fun.
Yeah, it's a
to-
lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it because
And
Yeah.
we always talk studio stuff at Icon, and I never have gotten a chance to like ask him like about where he even got into music and stuff. So I was very excited to do this. Bob will tell you, I've been like, and Alex is going to be on the show.
Yeah, he
And
was
Bob's
very
like,
excited.
Calm
Very
down, bro.
excited.
Stop drinking caffeine right now. And I'm like,
Well, I'm
no,
glad
we
you
don't
guys
want
had me on for sure.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed the getting to talk about studio stuff. I don't really get to do that very often, except with Kilo, really, and a couple of my other buddies. But I don't talk to them every day, so this is a lot of fun.
It's super,
Um,
okay, you still have to ask.
Well, I have a question though.
Yeah,
The
go
last
right
question.
up.
I think this is the last question, right? Am I the
It's the
last
last
question of all the questions? All right. So we were talking about TV shows and movies and old things. So I'm a big geek. I'm a big sci-fi geek, as you can see the posters on my wall and stuff. I love science fiction, and
Yeah.
and so I'm always watching some old sci-fi show. I like old ones. I like new ones. I like all of them. So like Mystery Science Theater is like my favorite thing. I watch old, but anyway, and I'm also a big Doctor Who fan. So lately I've been rewatching the Tom Baker. If anybody's a Doctor Who fan, if you guys are Doctor Who fans, but if you're as old as me and as geeky as me, then Tom Baker is like a hero. Tom Baker was like the best Doctor before the new era. There's David Tennant is like the greatest of the new Doctors. David Tennant and Jodie Whittaker are sort of tied, I think. And then the old Doctors. If you don't know Doctor Who, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But anyway, the point is, I'm rewatching Tom Baker be Doctor Who, and it's been awesome, and I love it so much. So I guess in the streaming era and everything, what was the last old favorite that you've gone back to and kind of binged?
Gone back to, that's a good question.
Like an old one, yeah. Like that's like this. The show I'm talking about is from 1975. You know what I mean?
No,
I was a little kid. I was a 5-year-old kid watching on PBS,
did,
and now I'm a 52-year-old man watching it on Netflix.
I did Cheers.
Cheers, that's a good one.
That's great. I go back to
Nice.
that every few years, for sure. Okay,
Wow. Right on. Good call.
my answer would be that the old one that I've gone back to recently. Does it have to be an old one? Well, I can't answer it like that.
Oh, that was you answer any way you want, my friend.
No, because mine is a show we talk about on this show all the time, so I'm not using that as my answer.
Okay.
I don't know. Recently or the last one I went back and watched would be, oh fuck, that's a hard one. I don't watch TV very much, bro. You got me pinned down here. What can I answer?
You
with
can just
what
say I don't know or no. You don't have to answer. There's no rule.
I want to go back and watch. How's that?
Yeah, there you go.
I want to go back and watch every single episode of the A-Team again.
Oh,
Like
that's a great one.
all,
That's
I want to
excellent.
watch all of it over and over again because I just like grew up wanting to be Mr. T.
Oh my
Like,
God, it was the greatest show ever. Oh, it's
I
great.
don't know
show.
why I didn't go. I'm probably not gonna be him, but like I just I'm like I proved a fool, and I would wear my mom's necklaces. All as many, I would gather her necklaces and put them all on at
You
once.
do still have the you got the chain going on. At least you got
One.
that.
I have one chain. I'm like a little person.
You got to
as
get
well.
the mohawk though, man.
I
You
have
gotta get
part of
the-
a mohawk as well. See?
there you go.
Come
Right on. You're
So
working on it.
that's my answer. What
All
about
right.
you, Bob?
Didn't I already answer? I think we're
your own
done.
question? No. Did you answer your own question?
Yeah, I started with Doctor Who. I was talking about
you asked the question by
Doctor-
yes,
Alright.
yes. So my
Okay.
answer is Doctor Who, season 12, Tom Baker. You know, there you go.
Got it.
That's my answer.
It's
Well,
funny
Alex-
though, when you go back and watch these old shows, like they used to get away with some stuff that you probably wouldn't be able to get away with now, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you watch Three's Company, like
Oh,
there
yeah.
is some risque stuff.
Yeah,
that's
there is.
why
And
we
you know,
don't watch it.
the funny thing too is like sometimes I'll go back and watch just like the X-Files. Like I love the X-Files. It was my favorite thing.
Oh,
in the
I love
90s.
the
Oh my
X-Files.
God.
Oh.
I would schedule the week around when the X-Files on Sunday nights, X-Files was gonna be on. I'd be so psyched because I'd be on the road with the band and I'd get home on Sundays. And that was like what I looked forward to is getting a 12-pack of beer and watching the X-Files, you know. So but now I've gone back and I don't drink the beer anymore either. So I go back and watch it in 2022 sober, and you know, you notice that the special effects are not what they are. You know, it's not the same. And honestly, even a great show like X-Files, the writing is not as good back then either. I mean,
Yeah.
TV stuff is better now. It really is.
Yeah.
I like dumb
What?
shit though, so I still love it.
Yeah. All right. There you go.
Anyways, Alex, is there anything else you want to say to the guests or, I mean, to the audience? Like,
He's the
we
guest.
always, you are the guest. We always
Well, I
like,
mean, well, who's the audience members? Who tunes in?
Who knows?
we have no idea.
We don't.
We don't know who they are, but let me put it this way, not children. No,
Yeah, no, I got it.
parent would let their children listen to me. So if that's your worry, I assume it's like people.
Well,
who-
I can tell you where if people are watching this right now, it gets streamed on my blog's Facebook page because it's a bigger audience there, and then on the House Aesthetic Twitter page, my LinkedIn page, YouTube, or the House Aesthetic YouTube page is really the main one, but it goes in all these different places. So people, you know, and we usually get a few viewers from each every time, and then it stays on YouTube after that, and that's really where we get most of the viewers is
so
after that.
YouTube is the answer, but
Yes.
not the children.
It's mostly YouTube, yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'll just leave with, find that person that listens to music in the same way you do.
Oh yeah,
That was
Awesome.
a
That is-
great thing you said. I agree.
best piece of advice I've heard on the show. No offense to our other guests.
Right on.
Worked that
Alex
way.
wins.
Alex for the win. Okay, guys, have a great weekend and enjoy everything. And I'm sure I'll see you again very soon, Alex. And I'll
All right,
also.
it was great meeting you, Bob.
It was really nice to meet you, Alex. I really appreciate it. Thank you
Bye,
so much.
everybody.
All right, guys. Adios. See you later, buddy.